All right, welcome back. Hope you're having a good day. Open with you guys, letting you know that I'm not really classically trained or anything like that, and that I'd be very open with you guys as to what happens to all the trees. And this is my first casualty, so we should have a quick moment of silence for this tree. But on the positive side, this is the other half of that tree, which I think looks much better than it would have had I left them together. They were growing in a clump. I repotted it in August and decided to separate them. I thought they were fused together, and they weren't fused together at all. I will include that video in the description. And I'm also going to make a playlist for actually split the two of those actually apart from another larger one that has also done well. I'll just include them all in the same playlist because they all come from the same mother tree or whatever. First time I worked that other one, I named it 512 after a Lamb of God song I was listening to when I was working on it. And so I just call this one now 513 just because it's the next one. It's the next one I worked on or whatever. And it's the same tree. But this does look much better than it did when it was tied together with the other one. The other one was just kind of, that dead one was just kind of coming up this way. I just went back and rewatched that video for the first time since I did it, and it was back in August. Kind of surprised because actually this one looked like it had a few less roots than the other one did. After I repotted them, kind of in the interest of like my room that I have and everything else, I actually put this one in more sun than the other one as well. And it's just the only place I really had for this one at the time. And I noticed the other one, I've never really had a microcarpa die on me like that before, other than a couple little small cuttings that I was just kind of like right at first I was defoliating way too often, things like that. The leaves just kind of like lost their luster and kind of looked like they were almost deflated a little bit. And then if you went to go touch any of them, they just kind of fall right off. All right, and this is a relatively small tree. I'm hoping to not have to do too much time lapse or editing. And there's an arrowroot here and an arrowroot here. And there's 2 or 3 branches that are actually below those aerial roots. I mean, I think, right now I just think that the tree is just kind of, determining for itself that it's just going to be a canopy type of banyan tree or whatever. But I would like to try to avoid reverse taper if I could. 2 of these branches that are coming out below the area roots are super weak. I'll probably just defoliate them and then pretty much tip prune and just kind of also prune for shape everything else and get some wire on it. And then there I got, it's actually 4, this one's kind of strong, and then 3 really spindly branches below the aerial roots there. And then it's pretty funny, the first really strong branch is just above them. And I'm sure that, if I was to get a caliper measure out or whatever, that would be quite a bit wider than down here. I'm thinking that this is kind of a tree where the canopy will kind of cover up any mistakes as far as like especially reverse taper, because when it's leafed out that should be covering up that bulge. But I'll still leave those there for at least a few more years just to see if I can fatten it out a little bit. but there is a wound right there. I'd like to maybe hope that that can just kind of fatten up. I'd have to take this wire off for it to really fatten up there, but what I do to some of these trees that are tall enough to do this with is I wired in up here, held it steady for me. Should be pretty good in root bound. It's really shallow pot, so I don't know how root bound it is. I'll leave it on while I prune for sure. Make up my mind when I wire it. Alright, and so I got the wire on there. A couple things I noticed while I was wiring it up is, well, first off, I noticed this aerial root kind of has some stretch marks on there, and I wasn't really all that sure I'd be able to get a good enough angle or zoom in to see that well enough. I can barely kind of see it myself, and I was going to point out that this one did not have any, and then actually just kind of as I jostled around a little bit and even noticed how shriveled up it is, that this aerial root's actually dead. So I'm going to go ahead and just pull it up out of there, cut the remnants of it off. I have noticed from some other trees that as soon as they start shriveling up and looking dead, there really is no hope for them. This piece here even has some rot there at the end. Just falls apart really easily, so no sense in even trying that. And then as I was wiring it up, I did decide that I do need to go ahead and put this back on there. I did really want to try to avoid exactly where I had it. And also, I do want the lean to be part of the structure of the tree, but I would like it to lean maybe just a little less. Kind of see that it's a little unsteady there. Not unsteady, but just kind of coming this way a little bit too much. And I had this wire right next to that wound, and I'm trying to leave that branch so that it'll eventually maybe envelop that wound. So I'm going to put it on the other side here and try to use it also just to straighten it up. Alright, and there we go. Nice and sturdy again. I guess I'll start down low. A couple of these little skinny branches. This one here, I actually did wind up breaking the growing tip off, but maybe just a little downward movement in each one of those. At least a little crook in there. This one here again, just a little down. I hear a lot of people preach the, got to put wire on each and every branch kind of a thing. And I haven't always kind of agreed with that, but at the same time, when you do miss a branch or two, it can become seriously obvious. If you go to try to leave it on 4 or 5 months and everything's just kind of bent down, and then you got a couple of little branches just kind of poking up out of nowhere. So I've been trying to be a little more conscious about getting either all or nearly all, every branch. think this tree should get really interesting looking in a short period of time, maybe another season or two. Kind of depends on some of these wounds getting healed.